Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. In today's video, I'm going to be testing 40-ounce tumblers. There's a trend going on, I'm sure you all have heard about it at this point. It feels like it's been years, but the Stanley 40-ounce tumblers. I see them online, I see them in person, my own kids even have some, and in my opinion, they're kind of expensive, but they might be worth it. Today we're going to find out if they're worth the high price, performance-wise anyhow. I bought some cups at Five Below. They're around $5 plus tax. And we have the higher end Stanley. It's $50 to $60 plus tax. And I have a couple of tumblers in between. And we're going to find out performance-wise how they are. I ran 4 different tests. I'm looking at the chart right here, so I read them off right. I ran a test: ice water at room temperature, hot water at room temperature, ice water at a hot, I was going to mix high and hot, at a hot ambient temperature, and refrigerated water at room temperature. I hooked a data logger up. I used thermocouples placed in the cups, and I logged the data at 1 second intervals for a period of 24 hours. I have charts to show you. We'll go over all that in a minute. I'll go over how much ice I put in the tumblers, the temperature of the water in the tumblers, all that stuff in a second when we get to the charts and the test setup. So I hope you guys are interested in this. I know I am, and I'm really actually excited about the outcomes of this to see if you really are getting what you're paying for. So let's get into it. Here are the tumblers that will be tested in today's video. My wife and I came up with some popular Stanley Duke 40-ounce tumblers that are trending. Let's go into a little detail on each. Here we have a Five Below 40-ounce tumbler. It's a good price point at $5.55. Hot and cold drinks, double wall insulated, press-on lid versus screw-on lid, plastic liner so it feels sort of flimsy. One thing I noticed was that the double wall liner was removable, which seems like water could easily trap inside while washing. Empty weight is 12.6 ounces, and the full weight is 3 pounds 5.3 ounces. Now we have the Mars 40-ounce charger. It has a price point of around $12.99, but with wholesale pricing available. Hot and cold drinks, double wall insulated. It feels good in the hand. It has a screw-on lid. I really like the lid because you can use the straw for cold drinks or the wide mouth opening for hot drinks. The weight empty is 1 pound 2.8 ounces, and the weight full is 3 pounds 12.4 ounces. Next, we have the Ozark Trail 40-ounce tumbler. It has a price point of $19.97. It's on sale right now for $14.97. You can use it with hot and cold drinks. It has a sturdy construction, feels pretty heavy duty. It has a screw-on lid. The only thing I don't really like about this cup is the straw at the end. It has a silicone flexible material, just a personal preference thing. I don't really like it much. The empty weight is 1 pound 4 ounces, and the weight full is 3 pounds 13.8 ounces. Now we have the Simple Modern 40-ounce tumbler. It has a price point of $29.99. You can use it with hot and cold drinks. It's my favorite in terms of design and feel. The way it comes is straw only, but there is an option for other lids. It does have a screw-on lid. The weight empty is 1 pound 3.2 ounces. The weight full is 3 pounds 12.3 ounces. Last, we have the Stanley 40-ounce tumbler. It has a price point of around $45. You can use it with hot and cold drinks. It's solid and feels very heavy duty in the hands. The lid on this one was my favorite because it has a seal for the straw and the option to rotate it around and use the wide mouth for hot drinks. It does have a screw-on lid. The empty weight of this one is 1 pound 6.7 ounces, and the full weight is 3 pounds 15.8 ounces. The first 2 tests are going to be using ice water. One ran for 24 hours at ambient room temperature, and one ran for 24 hours at 100 degrees ambient temperature. Here I'm just showing you kind of how I added water to these. I calibrated my fridge at 30 ounces before I did this test. I'm putting exactly 30 ounces of water in each tumbler, and then I'm going back and filling the 30-ounce container that I'm using that you see with ice. And I'm pouring that entire container of ice in each tumbler as well. So they're all the same, everything's the same as far as that goes. Here's an overview after they've been filled with water and ice. The lid's screwed on good and tight. And here are the tumblers inside of the enclosure that I use to keep, as people walk by, it just keeps the air off of the readings and kind of keeps all the temperature readings the same. Here are the temperatures at the beginning of the test. And here's how much ice is left over after the cup sat for 24 hours at the end of the test. The first test was ice water at ambient room temperature. As you can see, the tumbler that trended the coldest and stayed the coldest was Mars, followed by Simply Modern. And surprisingly, Ozark Trail and Stanley were pretty tied. They were on top of each other at some points. And the tumbler that warmed up the quickest was the blue line that rapidly goes up between 7.5 and 8 hours. It's the Five Below. It looks like once the ice melted, it was done for. But I still think that's really good. 8 hours is a long time to keep something ice cold. Well, it wasn't quite ice cold, but between 40 and 42 degrees is cold enough for me. I think it did all right, especially for the price. The second test ran was ice water with 100 degrees ambient temperature. This time the Simply Modern held out the longest, followed by Mars, then Stanley and Ozark Trail. They trended pretty close to each other as well. The Five Below didn't last but 2 hours or so this time. Looks like once the ice melted, it was done for. It's still a fair amount of time. If you're out working at 100-degree temps, you're probably going to drink 40 ounces of water in that amount of time anyhow, so it might be all right for you. For test 3, I'm doing hot water, 200 degrees at an ambient room temperature. Here's some clips of us heating the water up and filling the tumblers up with the hot water, and the tumblers inside of the enclosure, again, just to keep the outside air off from affecting the temperature readings. Here's the 200-degree water at room temperature. The reason I chose 200 degrees is because Google said that's approximately the temperature that coffee is brewed at, and that's approximately the temperature that the coffee is put in your cup. Then I Googled at what temperature coffee becomes kind of gross, to where you want to reheat it, and that's around 120 degrees. So again, the Simply Modern held its temperature the longest, followed by the Mars. The Stanley and Ozark Trail trended pretty closely again, followed by the Five Below, and it reached that 120 degree mark somewhere around 3 to 4 hours. For the last test, test 4, we got containers, filled them up with water, and set them in the refrigerator overnight to stabilize, and the temperature ended up being around 37 degrees. We then poured that water into the tumblers and tested at ambient room temperature. Here's just a clip of me filling the tumblers with the refrigerated water from the container, followed by the same thing as mentioned before. I just put them in the enclosure to keep the outside air off, because us walking by and the air conditioner blowing and the dogs running by and all that good stuff, it just keeps the temperature stable. I tried to run these tests before with them not in the enclosure, and the temperatures were all over the place, so that's why I did this for every test. Here is the refrigerated water at approximately 37 degrees in the tumblers at ambient room temperature. For this test, the Mars did the best, followed by Simply Modern. And again, Stanley and Ozark Trail trended right on top of each other. The Five Below didn't manage to last much past an hour before it started to rapidly rise. This test really surprised me, or all of these tests really surprised me. If you were going based on cost, you would think the Stanley would have blew these out of the water, and followed by the Simply Modern, then the Ozark Trail, then the Mars, then the Five Below. But the Five Below kind of trended the way you would, based off the price, the way your mind would think it would. What surprised me the most was the Mars, because you can almost get 3 of these cups, with taxes and shipping and all that stuff for the price of 1 Stanley. And that really surprised me. I would not have thought this cup would have done that good. I would have thought it would have been around the Five Below, a little bit better, but these tests really surprised me, and that's why I want to start testing and doing things like this, because stuff like this is very interesting to me to see if you really are getting what you pay for. Thank you guys so much for watching my video. I really appreciate it. I'm really surprised by the outcome of that, especially, like I said, I know this video is based all about price and performance, but I'm really surprised at the outcome. Feel-wise, just holding it in your hand, I think that the Simply Modern has them beat. It just feels sleek. The finish of it's nice. I like the lid on it. I like the way it feels. Personally, that's my opinion. But for the price, knowing what I know, I would buy the Mars cup. It's affordable. You can get like 3 of those almost for the price of one Stanley Cup. It performs really well. I was actually surprised. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. That was my personal opinion. You guys can come up to a conclusion based off the data and everything you saw. But let me know in the comments what you think. Let me know if there's anything that you guys would like to see tested. I have a lot of different scales and sensors and data loggers and setups I can do. So if you want to see something tested, just let me know. I appreciate you guys checking out my video. Comment, like, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.